How do? Welcome back to Edgar TV, where it's getting exciting. We're getting closer now, aren't we, to the UK Open, my favourite event on the entire calendar, and one that can change the life for many people. Andrew Gilding had his life changed in 2023. Many years after he debuted, he actually debuted alongside the likes of me, Joe Mernon, for example, in the 2011 UK Open. A story we're going to get to very soon, but here are 5 stories that I would like to tell today from my time at the UK Open. I played in the UK Open 10 separate occasions, playing at all 3 venues, playing at Bolton, in all 3 venues in Minehead, and in Milton Keynes during the COVID year. And the first story I'm going to tell is the story that happened in Minehead. I was playing in round number 5 against Dimitri Vandenberg. Now, what happened as I was going to throw my dart, the lights went out. I sort of jumped a little bit, hit a big 5. Now, the lights was out for a little bit of time during this game, so the officials said, lad, you need to leave the stage, go backstage, have a practice, we'll come let you know when it's time to come back on. We was backstage for around about 10 minutes before we was told, right guys, the issues are fixed, you're able to go back on stage now. We went on stage, we had 9 practice darts, and then the leg continued from the point of which we was in. It didn't go back and we start the leg again at 5:01. We carried on from the point of which we was in that leg. Not only that, but the referee at the time was Hugh Ware. He came and took a dart out of my hand and put it in the board. So he placed the dart in the board at the point he thought it was in the previous shot. Dimitri Vandenberg says, look, you can have the throw again. And they were like, no, you can't do that because that dart has been thrown. We need to continue from that thrown dart. So by the time we restarted the game, we restarted the game again with me throwing 2 darts in that sequence, and then the game was up and running again. So I thought that was quite an interesting story and an interesting thing in regards to the rules there, that we had to start from that exact point. Dimitri was like, no, that dart's been interfered with because the light, and it's like, no, this is how it's going to be. So interesting one there to share with you. Another interesting one, when we go back to 2011, my debut year, this was when life was very different for me. I was just getting into sort of different roles and different jobs in my work life when I was a coach and a teacher. So that was sort of coming through at the time. I had a young family, 4 children. It sort of, life wasn't cushy, shall we say. And I've got into the UK Open. I haven't been paid my wages yet. I haven't been paid my money from the Pro Tour yet, from money I won previous weeks. So I ended up getting through to the 5th round. But I didn't have enough to pay for the hotel because so I had to borrow the money to pay for the hotel. Crazy story. But this main story of 2011 for me was that surprise. I went in there and the UK Open to me was something I was watching and thought I could get to. And then I got there and I'm picking up these wins. And I remember winning in round 4 and just like flopping down on the stage. And this was in the days of the Thursday night. So I've got through the Thursday night, I got through the Friday. And I remember getting through and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I laid down on the stage. And this was in the end clips actually on Sky as well. And I'm laid on the stage. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. I'm into day number 3. And then I'm thinking, well, how am I going to pay for day 3? And I'm going to have to borrow some money so I get a hotel tonight. And then I turned my head like so. And on the main stage at that point was Terry Jenkins versus Adrian Lewis. And I'm laid there and I'm a fan. I'm still a fan now. I'm a big darts fan. And I'm laid there going, I'm watching Adrian Lewis versus Terry Jenkins for free. Like, this is incredible. I don't need a ticket. Like, I'm part of it. And then Sky Sports, like, we want to grab you for an interview. And I'm like, this is just bonkers. Like, I'm trying to take it all in. And I think that's something that maybe is missing a little bit from the UK Open now, that sort of all-in-one-room vibe, because that really added to it, I think, in that scenario. Another little interesting story for you comes in the form of the 170 finish. Now, you may have heard me talk about me beating Gary Anderson with the 170 finish, but I've actually had a couple of big 170s hit against me at the UK Open. Ryan Searle took a 170 against me at the UK Open, but none more so than, I believe it was 2018 when I played Steve West. I think it was around 4, maybe 5. But either way, drew Steve West. I've lost the game 10-7, and Steve West has taken out not 1, but 2 170 finishes. Brutal finishing from Steve West. World class. That's never happened to me. I'm nearly 40 years old now. I've never had someone take out 2 170 finishes against me in a match. Steve West did it in that UK Open game, and to this day you can still appreciate the quality. Good performance there from Steve. Going back again to Bolton, one of the interesting things here was this is where I had my first ever game, my first full match on Sky Sports. I was taking on Colin Osborne in 2013, the last year the UK Open happened at Bolton. So big for two reasons. I went onto that main stage, and this was very, very different. I had a couple of years of experience in regards to the UK Open on the sideboards, first time up on that main stage. Now, this gave me a lot of insight into what it was like. Perception was very different. We had a red surround and a red backdrop, because I believe it was Ladbrokes potentially that was sponsoring it at the time. But anyway, red backdrop, red surround, which made the dartboard feel really small, because you've got this colourful dartboard in the middle, red surround, red backdrop, so it just blurs in. And because the backstage is so big, it makes the board and the trebles feel small. So perception was something that, from that, I gained experience of going, right, we need to look at this because this ain't going to change. So it was something I actually really focused on when I went to like Euro Tours or the World Championship or the Players Championship, to try and make sure that I got used to the perception and the depth perception, so that the board didn't feel small and it didn't feel long, because that's the other thing, it makes it feel long when the board's like so. And as we know, the lighting's not always the greatest on the main stages, so that just made it a little bit tricky. I got the win in this one, but I learnt a lot, because actually what you find is, because of the broadcast and the timing, you need to be in certain places at certain times. You can't just stand on the practice board. When you're on a sideboard, it's much easier. You're practicing, oh right, I'm on now, I can go. With that, it's right, we're on in 5 minutes, so we need you down there now, we need you in position, we need you here, and you've got to get into certain places because you've got to hit the broadcasting times. So that was an eye-opener as well, and a little bit of an insight into the difference between those. I'll talk about these on my lives as well, so if you want to delve into that a little bit more, come join me on a live. Just hit that subscribe and we'll talk through those. But my final point I need to bring up, and I forgot what it is, so I'm going to look at the board. Turnaround times. Turnaround times. This is something that I believe I got very good at in regards to the UK Open. The UK Open is one of the hardest events to manage. You play afternoon, evening. The draw comes out late. And now this one was interesting because the afternoon session ran a little bit later. So it was running on a bit. The draw was coming out a little bit late. So the broadcast starts at 7 and the draw was still not done around about 5:30. And I was getting a bit hungry. So I'm like, look, we're not going to go back to the hotel. We're not going to go and have I'm just going to grab a quick burger from Burger King, and I'm going to sit in the stand and I'm going to have a burger and we'll watch the draw. So we went to the back of the arena and I'm having a burger from Burger King watching the draw. And I ended up drawing John Henderson. And the missus was like, right, okay, well, shall we go back now? And I'm like, no, because the broadcast will run as the broadcast. It doesn't matter that this is run late. So I could be on at 7 o'clock, I could be on at 10 o'clock. We don't know. Got to 6 o'clock, the schedule still hasn't came out. I said, the chances are, me versus John Henderson's not main stage, it's not stage 2, it's going to be in room 3. So we'll go up to that room, because that's the likelihood I'm going to be there. I said, the other likelihood is I'm probably going to be first or second. So we're going to go there now, and I'm going to have to start practicing. Because if I don't, and they let us know at 6:30, I've got half an hour to get ready. I'm someone who needs a lot of practice and time to get ready. I called it perfectly. With first game on, 7:05, I was up there practicing, got the jump on it, ended up winning that match. So that one worked out quite well. So I think experience does pay a lot in the UK Open, and maybe keep your eye out for that as this event goes through. People who have played this before may be able to call those little bits and get that little bit of an insight. But that, for me, 5 interesting stories of my time at the UK Open. Hope you've enjoyed this. Hit that subscribe. I'll catch you soon.